So we have another case that we're going to discuss today.
Right.
It's a similar case to one that we've discussed before. And it's going to basically put the emphasis on letting you know you definitely need to put your property into a trust if you're trying to protect your loved ones.
Right.
Here's another situation where we came across a situation where the stepbrothers contacted us to get a property listed for probate. Actually, they need a little direction, right?
Yeah,
or did the attorney turn them on to?
I reached out to them.
Okay,
Remember,
I'm sorry. You reached out to them, right? Okay.
We reached out to them.
Right.
And they was in need of our services at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out, their mother had predeceased their stepfather, who was last to hold title on the property that was going through probate. And, he needed direction as to
what was the next steps?
What was the next steps?
Yeah. So in this particular case, the two brothers, their mother was married to the stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
The mother passed away.
Right.
But the parents held the title in joint tenancy, which means right of survivorship.
Right.
So that means if she passed first, it goes to him. If he was to pass first, it goes to her.
Right.
Okay, with no regard to heirs, okay? So in this particular scenario, mom's passed first.
Right.
And so that means the right of survivorship was in the stepfather's hands.
Mm-hmm.
And so the title went into his name.
Right.
Period. So that means he's in control.
He's in control.
Now, the father did not have a trust. The father did not write a will.
Right.
So he left the estate with nothing.
Right.
Okay, so here's a situation where it has to be probated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have the stepson who was trying to establish or become the administrator of the estate.
Yeah, he was trying to.
But they had a stepsister. I mean, a stepsister. Yeah, stepsister.
That they never met before.
They hadn't met her before then?
They hadn't met her
They knew of
the
her.
petition before they submitted the petition.
Really?
That's how they.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure about that, but I know you had spoken with them.
Right.
And so that means that, okay, so if they met under these circumstances, now it's a situation where the daughter stepped in and became the administrator of the estate.
Remember too that the sons, I think the sons and the stepfather was around the same age too.
Oh.
Remember?
Okay, yeah. I guess mom married somebody who's around the sons. I guess so that means the mom's married a younger man.
She did.
Normally it's the other way around in a lot of cases, but in this case, mom's married a younger man who was closer to the age of her sons.
Right.
And the sons did not like that. Now that you bring that, I remember that. They weren't too happy about that. And now that he passed away, he had a daughter. That, of course, he was in contact with, but she didn't really interact with her dad and the stepmom too much.
Right.
So she became the administrator of the estate for her dad.
Right.
And so she had all rights at that particular point. Mm-hmm. So if the mother had wanted her boys to get something, she should have put it into a trust.
Right.
So now we have a situation where the daughter, the stepdaughter, not the stepdaughter, the stepsister,
right,
which was the daughter of the stepfather,
right,
was in charge.
Right.
Now, from what I understand, she was trying to work it out, and she was going to make sure everybody got something because, of the dynamics of that relationship.
Right. And to be fair for her, she didn't have any prior relationships
with them, right?
So it was kind of a
that's
tricky situation.
It's always tricky because if you don't have no relationship, you have no feelings, so you don't have no obligation. you don't feel nothing towards saying forget them. I'm gonna keep all the money and go on about my business.
Right.
But it would be right of her to give them something under those circumstances. But again,
and that's her business.
It's up to her. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure. That the mother, if she's looking down, she wish she had put something in place. Right. But again, the importance of putting a trust in place, where the husband and the wife had come to an agreement as to what was going to happen with the assets.
Right.
And then one of them was to pass away. It locks it in. Right. And nothing can be changed, because then that means that the father had his say about what he wanted to occur for his daughter. The mom had her say as to what she wanted to happen for her sons.
Right.
And so if the father had passed, it would have locked in his wishes and the trust couldn't be changed. And the same with the mother. It could have locked it in for her sons and the trust couldn't be changed. So here's another scenario where because there was no trust and there was not even a will, so we had to start from scratch. So they had to go to court. Somebody had to become an administrator to carry out the wills of the descendant. Okay, and in this case, they're looking at the descendant's decision from the father's vantage point. They're not thinking about the mom because I think she passed away 5 or 10 years earlier anyway. And so she's out the picture at that point. So it's strictly from their stepfather's vantage point. And if the stepfather didn't put something in writing and say, yeah, I want to leave my stepson something, which he probably wouldn't have done if they didn't get along, if they was jealous, but that should have been in writing to make it right. So we have to think about these things. We have to think about these circumstances because there's all kind of scenarios out there. There's no perfect family out there. There's no mother and father who gets married and they stay together forever. That just don't, especially today, that don't happen with this. Not with the high rate of divorce. No, that just does not occur. And so, you have to make sure that things are in place because, these family dynamics start to change, throughout the years. And when you do get a trust, you need to update it. You should probably review it every year, at least every year. Every time some type of dynamics change within the family, you probably want to look at everything. You want to look at your trust, you want to look at your insurances and so forth. Because, you have to plan for the future. And you have to plan as if you're not here. Okay, if I'm not here, how is this going to play out? Which is very important. That's what a responsible parent would do at this point. But you have to have the knowledge of that's what you should do. And a lot of people are not familiar, as to what they should leave behind, how they should leave it behind. They want to, they have the desire, but they're not actually getting it done.
And then also in situations with step families, or blended families, so to speak, stepchildren they could be entitled to certain rights if they can prove that, their step parent was, providing for them financially or, and based on their history, that would be that step parent's intent to leave something for their child, and just as we learned early on as we was getting off in the probates that adopted kids, they have the same rights as biological kids.
As a matter of fact, what about that case where we drove by the house and the grandmother was trying to, control the house, and then I think it was the granddaughter and the son may have adopted that daughter. And then she wanted to, I think the granddaughter of the mother, she said that the dad was leaving the house to her. I mean, you know that one better than I did, because you talk to her more and I come in and make sure everything happened. But how did that work? Do you recall that situation? Because, it was interesting. You had a grandmother, you had a son who had passed away, who had owned a house. He had a girlfriend. I don't think he was married to her. Or was he married to her?
No, I think
was he married to the lady?
I think
he had a wife or something, and then he passed. Well, it would have gone to the wife. And so it didn't go to the wife. So I think she was a girlfriend. But he was taking care of her daughter like it was his child. And so she stepped in and said he promised to, leave the house to me. So it was crazy. That's a whole nother scenario.
From that situation, it appeared as though the grandmother wasn't going to inherit anything, because it was going to that child, based on intestacy laws.
Well, go back over that scenario and then relate it to the intestacy laws. I'm gonna let you speak about that. So talk about that scenario.
Just as we mentioned earlier, stepchildren and adopted children, especially adopted children, not so much as stepchildren, but adopted children, they have the same rights as a biological child. And that was the situation with the grandmother where he adopted her daughter.
Oh, he actually adopted
It was
her.
two of them.
Okay.
It was two daughters. He had basically.
Did he adopt both daughters?
Right.
Okay.
He was taking care of them. And I think he left certain accounts for him. The retirement, he had left the retirement accounts to
That's
them.
a key right there.
Yeah, so I think all of those things played in favor for the daughters.
The daughters, yeah.
And,
the adoptive daughters, yeah.
The adoptive daughters, where his biological mother, she was basically kind of shunned out of the picture, so to speak. You know, because based on intestacy laws, spouses have top priority than the kids.
The children.
You know, and if there weren't any children, then it would go to the parents.
But in this case,
he had children. Even
because
they weren't his biological kids.
They were adopted.
They were adopted.
Just same thing.
And they are entitled to the same rights as biological children.
Yeah.
So that was definitely, an interesting situation. But it happens. And that's information that the public should know.
And I think his mother tried to contest it.
She did try to contest it.
But I think what is going to get her is the fact that he left his retirement.
He left his retirement
to his daughters,
right,
to take care of them.
And I think
therefore, I'm assuming that the judge would say, well, if he left his retirement to take care of them, then he's leaving his house to them as well, because he wasn't married, but he adopted the daughters.
Exactly what it was.
That's very interesting. You have to understand the positioning that you're putting yourself in, even when you adopt.
Right. I wanted to ask you this too, Pops, because you have experience in this, so to speak. Just with blended families. What would you recommend to those out there? Blended families. How should they hold title? What if they're not in a situation right now to be able to establish a trust?
You know what?
How should they hold title to that?
If you held title, I think that everyone, bare minimum, because it's a blended family for sure.
Right.
And if you both are planning to leave something to your children,
right,
then it should be tenants in common.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because that means you have 50%,
right,
I have 50%.
Right.
And I could do with my 50% of the house what I want to. If I wanted to donate it to charity, if I wanted to leave it to my girlfriend, if I wanted to leave it to my kids, if I wanted to leave it to my dog, I could leave my half to whoever I want to. And you could do with your half whatever you want to. Okay. Now, we had a scenario similar to that where it was held in a joint, not joint tenancy, but tenants in common. But the mother of that particular situation put her half into a trust, whereas her husband, the father of the other two daughters, didn't put his half into a trust.
Right.
And so, therefore, you have a lot of confusion. You have a lot going on in that particular situation. You have a trust, right? One has to go through probate. The other half, there is no probate. The trust is controlling everything.
Right.
And you have guys out there who go to work, they come home, they hand their checks off to their wife.
Right.
And they take an allowance, and it may not be nothing wrong with that. It depends on how you want to live. That's fine.
Yeah.
But gentlemen, you have to listen to your wife.
Right.
In that particular scenario, if your wife is putting her half into a trust, and she's trying to tell you that you need to put together a trust for your half, and you're not listening, you're creating a problem.
Right, as it did.
As in that particular situation, it did. So apparently she put hers in the trust. I don't think she was being facetious and didn't tell him. I think it might have been a situation just because a couple of people outside of that relationship that had spoken to us said that he didn't want to think about that. He didn't want to talk about that. So by not wanting to think about it, by not wanting to talk about it, he created a situation.
He did.
And that situation was probate. You know what I mean? It's that simple, probate. And so, that was something that could have been avoided.
It could have been avoided.
And so, when you have title like that and you have blended families, you can take your half and put your half in a trust.
Right.
Your wife can take her half and put it into a trust.
Right.
And it goes from there. And if everybody, can't agree, they can't get along, bottom line, you sell it, and you get your half, they get their half, and then you split that half up however you want to.
Right.
You split it up amongst your children. She split up her half amongst her children, and you going about your business. So the bottom line is you must have a trust, or I should say you should have a trust. You know,
if
because
you own any assets, you should have a trust. That should be definitely mandatory to have a trust.
And look, the trust, you know, when you hear about living trust and things along those lines, it's not just for rich people. You know, maybe some people think that way. It's for anyone who have assets. And if your assets are worthy of preserving, or if you have an asset that you want to pass on to your children, or your godchildren, and your grandniece, whatever the case may be, because there's people out there who've never had children. They love their niece and nephew. They want to leave it to them. And I know people who have received properties from their aunts because their aunts and uncles never had any children.
The rich aunts.
So as they call them, right. You know, but the bottom line is, you know, you need to leave it in writing, and you need to put it into a trust. And the trust is not that expensive in the beginning if you compare it to what the cost is going to be at in the end. I said, so, you know, it doesn't make sense that, you know, and we always use the example for $1 million property, you know, it's going to cost, I think we said $23,000.
46 if the administrator.
They could be more, because if it's administrator and they have the right to collect the same amount as the attorney. Or you could look at it from the standpoint of saying, okay, if I spend, you know, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, whatever. If it's $1,500 to $5,000, that's no comparison to $23,000 or $46,000, depending on who's dealing with who becomes the administrator. You have administrators who become the administrator of the trust, and because the family is a big headache, they're I'm gonna take I'm gonna get paid. I'm gonna take my cut. You know. So if the attorneys is getting 8 to 23, I want my 23 as well. So that's 46.
In comparison to 2,500,
you know,
5,000.
Right. You know. So and then you know you have other administrators who won't take their administrative fee, because that they have a right to collect, because you know they say it's the family and you know we all getting something, so they're not really tripping off of it. So it depends on the situation. And again, you can't be mad if a person becomes the administrator of the estate and they carry everything through, and then you have to pay the probate fees to the state, the court, for the attorneys, and then you have the administrative fees, which is the equivalent. So that's a high cost in comparison to just doing the living trust. just get it done. You know what I mean? And then I can only imagine that you know you would want to leave things a certain way. You know, you know, you can't wait. Look, realistically, when you born into this world, and it's a reality check, they said we born to die. That means as we get older, we're getting closer and closer. We just don't know when that clock is up, okay? I'm not afraid to do a trust because I don't believe I'm gonna die tomorrow, but just in case I die tomorrow, I want it to be in order, you know? It's like when we was young, when I was younger and y'all was young, I made sure I had a trust in place. It wasn't that I thought I was gonna die, you know, before you became grown. It was just that I needed to have something in place in case something did happen. You know, and I had to make sure, I had to make sure that, you know, you had a place to live, and, you know, I had life insurance. I'm not afraid of that. You get your life insurance because if something happened, then they need some insurance, some money, a lump sum to come in to help take care of them. That's just being responsible. That's all it is. It's nothing about, oh, I'm gonna die tomorrow if I do this trust. Oh, I'm gonna die tomorrow if I get the life insurance. We need to get that out of our head. I mean, because that's what it really is. You know, oh, I don't want to talk about death. Well, you think I want to talk about it? I say, because trust me, the older I get, it hits me. You know? I remember when I was your age, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, ooh, cats my age at this point is old. But I'm just saying, I'm here at this age and I've had stuff in place throughout your life. So I wasn't worried about it because I said, if I'm traveling, if I'm on a plane, if it goes down, you know, I'm not worried about it from the extent that it won't be anything left behind. I just had to make sure that the right people was going to be in charge of what I wanted to leave behind. And I think that's what a responsible parent would do, our parents would do. So I'm telling the responsible parents, the parents who want to take care of business, is to go out and get that living trust. That's number one. understand that the cost is minor compared to what it could be.
Right.
And also that trust is going to keep the headache down.
Right.
You know, you'll be surprised, you know, as you've seen with your friends, other relatives, you know, you had relatives that was getting along fine until somebody passed away.
Right,
and it came down to getting a house, or selling the house, or getting some money.
Right.
Then all of a sudden everybody wanted the money and everybody mad at each other.
Right.
And then they mad and say, well, you know, I was supposed to get this. Okay, you were supposed to get that. Why? Because that's what you that's what you thought. Exactly.
Yeah, Daddy felt this way about me. He would want this.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, how can you say how how a decedent really felt? I mean, you think you may have known, but next time Mama tell you that you're gonna be the one who get it, you say, Mom, you need to take care of business and put that into a trust.
Right. Right.
So I make sure that happened.
Right.
Because you telling me that it may not happen.
Right.
It's not just gonna happen just because you telling me right now it should happen.
Right.
Did you take care of business to make sure that it happened?
Right. And
you
then
know,
also,
you got to make sure of that.
Right. And I also want to let it be known that this is not just an old thing. You know, when it comes to establishing a living trust. If you're if you own any type of assets, you know, valuable assets, you should definitely establish a living trust. There is no age limit on establishing a living trust.
Again,
you know, if you own valuable assets, you should have a trust for sure.
Right. You know, if you have a home, if you have large amounts of monies, it doesn't matter, businesses, insurances, and so forth, you should have something in place, especially if you have children, because you never know what's going to happen in your life or their life.
Right.
Again, we know it's a travesty if your children outlive you. I mean, I should say if you outlive your children. It's supposed to be that your children outlive you. That's the way we view it.
Or even if you die premature in raising your kids.
No, that's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at. I was like, again, like you say, if I'm young and I pass away, you know, yes, I'm supposed to pass away before my children. But you don't want to die too young before your children too, just like you were just mentioning, because that's why I told you I always had things in place, because, you know, if something was to happen to me, I had to make sure that y'all would be able to survive, you know, and have a chance at life. And I think a responsible parent will want to think that way. And I think that responsible parents will want their wishes written down. And it goes according to what you write. It's not about what you think, you know, because you can't come and say, well, I was supposed to get this, or mama promised me this, or daddy said I was going to get this. No, put it in writing, you know, in a trust.
And be very clear
in a trust.
In these trusts.
Right.
And, you know, I want to add to this too, because I also saw a news report where a lady in Conway had killed her father for her inheritance.
Yeah, was it the father and the brother too, right?
It was the half-brother too.
Oh, half-brother.
Her father and half-brother. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Her half-brother.
Yeah.
And so, you know, even as you're establishing your living trust, be very clear, not only with your instructions, but, you know, any stipulations that if anyone is too greedy or, you know.
If they do something heinous like that.
They should be disinherited, shouldn't receive anything. You know, it's your world. You know, you can create the rules to your world.
Right.
And allow things to, you know, sway in your way. You know, so to speak.
And make sure that your heirs are responsible.
Right.
You know, if they're being irresponsible and uncontrollable, then hey, why are you leaving them anything? You got to really think about that. You know, reward those who are going to be responsible citizens who are going to contribute to society and not be a menace to society, as I would always say. Right. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's what we want to end this episode on. We wanted to make sure that, again, we're ending this episode letting you know how important it is to have a living trust. Right. Because we just talked about two scenarios in which a lot of things could have been avoided if they only had just sat down, spent a little money, because that's little money compared to what probate money is, exactly. and put the trust together. Right.
And to let you know, we practice what we preach, because this young man right here definitely has a living trust.
I have a living trust. I have life insurance. I have things in place for my family. You know, so I do practice what I preach. I believe everyone should be in the same position. And again, if you find that yourself is in need of an attorney referral, you need some direction, a start point. You know, come in, talk to us, call us over the phone, talk to us, and you know, we'll share our attorney list with you. And we may give you some suggestions as to how you may go, but we always going to end up referring you to an attorney because we're not attorneys.
Right.
We're just talking about our experience. We're telling you about the things that we've learned while dealing with probate.
Right. If you're out in the Los Angeles area and you find yourself in probate and need help with the sale of a home, give us a call at 1-800-720-9788, and we look forward to helping.